Hey everyone, welcome back to Flourishing with a Facial Difference. My name is Brooke, and today's episode is all about online dating. I hope that everyone has been enjoying the fall weather that we've finally been having. I'm so glad that it's officially sweater weather. I love it. It's so cozy and I'm obsessed. So yes, you heard that intro correctly. Online dating is our topic of the day. And I'm actually really excited about this episode because I feel like I have a lot to bring to the table as far as online dating goes. I'm excited to share my thoughts and opinions and experiences. And again, these are all my personal thoughts and experiences. So if you don't like online dating, that is totally fine. I understand that it's not for everyone. A lot of people don't agree with online dating and they don't think that it's an appropriate way to meet their partner, and that's totally fine. I am very much open to anyone having their own opinion. That's great. I just want to share my thoughts and my own experiences with it. So starting off, online dating has actually been around for over 20 years, and it started with eHarmony and Match.com. It also kind of happened when people had those AOL chat rooms, but websites specifically designated for online dating, Match.com and eHarmony are definitely the OGs in the community. Now, a lot of people don't use eHarmony and Match.com today just because you have to pay for their services. Now, there's over 2,000 different dating apps, and majority of them are free. It just blows my mind that there's 2,000 different dating apps. Like, how can you possibly need that many? So I first started using online dating apps my freshman year of college. It was definitely because of peer pressure. Everyone on campus had a Tinder, and I just felt, not necessarily left out, but I did feel like I was missing out on something. I felt like if everyone had a Tinder and it was the new fad, then maybe I should get one too. And mostly I downloaded it just for fun. I didn't think anything at all would come of it, and I didn't take it seriously whatsoever. It was mostly just for fun. But it ended up being a pretty pivotal thing in my life, and I'll explain why later. So I got one at the end of 2014, and I had one up until the end of 2017. Now, I did end up having some relationships in between then, so I just want to make a disclaimer that anytime I ever got in a serious relationship, I deleted the app because I do not condone being on a dating app while you are dating someone. And I just want to let that be known that even though I have had a Tinder from 2014 to 2017, I did not consistently use it throughout all of the 3 years, just so you guys know. So this is going to sound absolutely insane to most people listening to this, but between 2014 and 2017, I tried to do the math, and it was a little bit impossible because I don't have the world's best memory, honestly, but if I had to do a guesstimation, I would say that I've been on about 30, give or take, about 30 dates from online dating. And that might sound like a lot to some people, but I kind of broke it down to make it a little bit more justifiable for me. In 3 years, that's 30 dates. That's 10 dates a year. That's almost 1 date a month. That's not too bad, and it's not like it was anything serious. Going on a date is really not that big of a deal. So, the dating app that I preferred was Tinder. I also had a Bumble and an OkCupid, but at the end of the day, I always went back to Tinder. Which is so funny because I feel like Tinder has this big stigma of it being a hookup app. And I just want to let it be known that I did not see it that way. Anytime someone asked me, why are you here? I never gave an answer like, I'm here for a relationship, but I also never gave an answer like, I'm here to mess around, I'm here to have fun, I'm here to hook up. That was not me at all. I also don't think that for me personally, I was ever looking for a relationship. It was more so, I'm just trying to see what's out there. I'm just trying to see my options, and if something came of it, then that's awesome. I wasn't opposed to a relationship, but never was I on there specifically determined to get a relationship, because I don't feel like something like that needs to be forced. So a little fun fact is my Tinder actually said coffee and Jesus. And I did that on purpose because I feel like putting coffee in my bio was kind of like a conversation starter. Someone would say, oh, how do you take your coffee? Or someone would say, oh, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. Or it's open to, oh, I've never had coffee before. I feel like coffee is such a universal topic, and it can be used in so many different ways of starting a conversation. And coffee is also extremely important to me, so if someone out there can relate to that, then that's one of the reasons why I put coffee on there. And I put Jesus on there just so, this is going to sound kind of stupid, but the reason I put Jesus in my bio was so that anyone could see that and know that I'm, quote, not that type of girl. And if you are that type of girl, that is totally fine. It's just not the lifestyle that I want. And hopefully you know what I mean when I say that kind of girl. So anyways, I felt like putting Jesus in my bio made sure to let people know that I am a religious person and that I'm not down for anything other than just having a conversation, maybe hanging out. That's it. So one of the biggest questions I get is, why are you on dating apps? Why don't you just meet someone organically? And my answer to that is such like an in-depth question. I feel like I don't necessarily have to have a reason as to why I chose online dating versus meeting someone out and about. It just was something that I preferred. One big thing that I like about using dating apps is I have complete control. And by that I mean I get to pick the photos that other people get to see of me. I get to choose the information that I put out there. I get to choose the type of guy that I'm giving my information to. And I understand that you can't fully get to know someone over a dating app. I get that, and that's not at all what I mean. But it's nice knowing that I have the power to give someone my number or not. I feel like there's less pressure online versus in person. If someone were to walk up to you and ask you for your number, it's so much harder to be like, no. It's kind of awkward. But if someone online asks you for your number, it's pretty common, it's pretty natural that you have a little bit more confidence online, because what do you have to lose, you know? I think the fact that I do have a visible facial difference is a big reason as to why I did prefer online dating. I never once catfished anyone, and for those of you out there who don't know what catfishing is, a brief summary is basically using someone else's photos and pretending that it's yourself. I never once did that, but I definitely was guilty of uploading photos of myself that, didn't necessarily highlight my facial difference. Like I would post photos wearing sunglasses, or I would post photos really far away. And I actually didn't tell people that I had a facial difference until I planned on meeting up with them. If I talk to a guy and we set an official date to meet and hang out and do whatever, then I would, mention the fact that I do have a facial difference, and I would kind of give them the option if they still wanted to, meet and go out. And believe it or not, there were a few people that we had set a date, and then I opened up a little bit and I said, hey, just so you know, I do have a facial difference. I do look a little bit different. And if you would like to know more, I'm more than happy to share some of that with you. But just a heads up, I do look a little bit different. And I actually did get quite a few people who said, you know what, never mind, I'm not into it. I think people are a little bit more harsh online. And so I just want to say that if you do have a facial difference and you do choose the route of dating online, it's super important that you have a thick skin, because like I said, when people are using an online app, they are filled with so much more confidence. Therefore, they are much more rude. They're much more blunt. They're much more, they're much more likely to be a bully. So I think that if you do use a dating app and you do have a facial difference or any kind of difference at all, I think that it's important to develop a thick skin and just kind of remind yourself that not everyone is going to like you and not everyone is going to have something positive to say. And that didn't happen to me that much, but because it did happen a little bit, luckily I do have a higher tolerance for ignorance. I do have a thicker skin. And I'm pretty okay with bullying. And I know I said in my previous episode that throughout high school I was never bullied, and I wasn't, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have been able to handle it if I was. I like to think that I'm a pretty strong person, and so, anything that a guy said to me online definitely went right through me. I'm not someone who lets that kind of stuff get to me, and I'm very thankful for that, because I do know that not everyone can say the same. Majority of the time, anytime I had set a date with someone and then I opened up and let them know that I do have a facial difference, like 80% of the guys would be like, okay, that's cool, I don't judge people. It's just appearance. It's more about personality. And that to me is so much better of a response as opposed to, never mind, I'm not into it. I think the only times that I was ever called ugly or my facial difference was thrown back in my face was when some guys would, how do I make this PG? Tinder is known for a hookup app. That doesn't mean that everyone on there is wanting to hook up, but that also means that a lot of people are there for one reason and one reason only. Ladies, if you have a Tinder, you know that in your inbox there is at least one inappropriate message. And a lot of times I didn't respond to them, but on the rare occasion that I was like, nope, not into it, not down, then guys would throw back in my face, well, you're ugly anyways. And to me, that's hilarious. I think it's so funny that in 1 second you find me so attractive and you're, wanting to do certain things, and the next second you're like, ew, you're ugly, all because you were denied. So there is a little bit of humor on dating apps, so just keep that in mind. Another question that I get from my friends is, do they actually work? And I say yes. I think with a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, dating apps can totally work out for the best. Like, I definitely had some really good dates. I made some incredible friends. Like, I have guy friends to this day that I still talk to, that I met on Tinder. And just because it doesn't work out in a romantic way doesn't mean you can't be friends. I think that it is such an awesome community to meet people and get to know people and kind of figure out what you want, And I can say that they do work, because December of 2017, I did meet my boyfriend, and we are approaching our 2-year anniversary. We are so happy. We have a house together. We have a dog together. And honestly, you guys, we are living the most beautiful life together. And I'm not going to get emotional, but he's my best friend. And Tinder, if you're listening and you want to sponsor our wedding, my email is in the show notes. So anyways, yes, Dating apps do work as long as you have a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, because again, I was on Tinder from 2014 to 2017, and it took me that long to find the one that was meant for me. So now that I've talked about some online dating statistics, I've talked about some of my experiences, my opinions, now I want to talk about some red flags that come into play when you are using an online dating app. Having Tinder for 3 years, I definitely understand that it can be very unsafe if not done correctly. My mom is fully aware of all the dates that I've ever been on, and even though I haven't been on them in over 2 years, she will sometimes remind me, you are so lucky that nothing bad happened to you on any dates that you've ever been on. And she's right. There is a very good chance that I was just lucky and, thankfully nothing bad happened to me. But also, I think nothing bad happened to me because I was hyper aware of any red flags when talking to someone new. And so I just want to go over a few of the red flags that I personally have noticed in people and that I've learned how to spot them out. So, red flag number 1, when someone is overly eager to meet up. If you start talking to a guy or a girl and they are just overly excited, to me, that's a red flag. And it might not be to some people. It might be really cool to have someone that's so excited to meet you, but I think that there's a fine line. I have a short little story of a red flag that I noticed. So it was early 2015. I had plans to meet with a guy, and we had only been talking for a couple of days. Mind you, I wasn't head over heels. I wasn't smitten. I wasn't even that excited about our date, but we did end up setting a date, and something in my gut just didn't feel right. He seemed a little bit too excited about this date, and honestly, I think that he wasn't unsafe. I think that it would have been fine. But I don't think that we would have been compatible, just in the way that he was just overly excited. I don't know how to explain it, you guys. He just couldn't stop talking about our date that was, more than a few days away. So instead of canceling the date, I ended up asking if we could postpone it. That way I could have a couple more weeks to continue to talk to him and make sure that meeting him is something that I really want to do. And he actually got very upset. Now, mind you, I did not cancel the date. I simply just said, hey, is it okay if we wait a couple more weeks before we go out? Because I just want to make sure that, we know each other pretty well. And he was unbelievably offended. He said that he was so upset that he was looking forward to this date. He took off work and he was just, I got his hopes up, and he stopped talking to him altogether because there's no reason for you to get so upset over me just wanting to protect myself, Another red flag is when a guy uses way too many emojis. I don't know what it is, but I've definitely gone on some Tinder dates where a guy there's just a type of guy that overuses emojis. Instead of words, he will use an emoji any chance that he can get. And to me, they're just odd. They're not dangerous, but they're odd. And I definitely don't like that type of guy. I don't even know what type of guy that is, but if you overuse emojis, odds are we're not going to work out, at all. Number 3, when someone isn't engaging and is just being really short, that is a sign of uninvolvement, and that basically just tells me that you're already uninterested and we haven't even met yet. And that pretty much sets a tone for the rest of whatever is going to happen with us. If you can't be excited, don't get overexcited, but if you can't be a little bit excited to meet me, then it's honestly not worth my time and it's not worth my gas, My next red flag is when they constantly flake on meeting. Another example, I went on a date with a guy and it ended up going really, really well, and we made 3 or 4 different attempts to hang out again. And something was constantly coming up. And I get it, that's life. But I strongly believe that if he wants to see you, he will make time for you. And being flaked on more than once is just a no for me because, first impressions are everything. And if you're already flaking after we just met, that's a waste of my time. My last red flag is when a guy just overly texts. If he double texts you, triple texts you, I just think that is super unattractive. Now, if you're in a relationship, it's totally fine under certain circumstances, but if we've never met and you're blowing up my phone, that pretty much tells me what kind of boyfriend you would be. And I'm just not into that. It tells me that you're already clingy and we haven't even met. And sis, that's not for me, I'm not about that. So I have a few common sense rules that I would like to go over when you are meeting up with someone new. Rule number 1 is such a duh rule, but meet in a public place. I will admit that I am guilty of not always meeting up with someone in a public place. Oftentimes I would go to someone's house, I would have them over to mine, and yes, I know that is super unsafe, and again, that goes back to what I was saying about just being lucky that nothing bad ever happened to me, but you do hear those stories where girls will meet up with guys and never be seen again. I definitely should have been smarter, and I feel a little bit hypocritical that I'm telling you to meet in a public place. If I was still in the dating world, I would definitely make better decisions and start meeting people in public places. So take it from me, it's so much more safe, and you might not always be lucky that day, My next rule is to always tell someone when and where you're going to be. Oftentimes I would turn my location on and share it with 1 or 2 of my friends just to let them know, hey, I'm going on a date, I want to be safe, and here's where I'll be, here's his name, here's his number. I've definitely done that on more than one occasion. I even did it with my current boyfriend Joe. I remember I sent my best friend Haley my location, I gave her his address, I gave her his number, and I made sure that she knew when and where I was going to be, because we ended up hanging out pretty late, and I did not meet him in a public place. I went to his house. I know, stupid, but hey, it worked out. We're together and we're happy. But I think it's super important that if you're going to make the mistake and meet someone in a private place, definitely let someone know where you are and check up on them periodically so that they know that you're still alive. My last rule is to only stay for a few hours. And I think that I have this rule for multiple reasons. I think that giving yourself mentally a time limit makes you feel so much better about, if the date isn't going well, then you have in your head, well, luckily it's a short one. Or in my case, Joe and I, we didn't hang out all day. We hung out for a few hours, and it definitely left me wanting more. I think that's a huge sign, is if you can limit yourself and only hang out with someone for a few hours and you don't want to leave, that is a huge sign that it's going well. I think that it's important to leave a date and, miss them a little bit, miss the conversations that you were having, and miss the feeling of a first date. I definitely did. I left Joe's house and I missed him already. I already wanted a second date. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want it to end. And I didn't know when I was going to see him again, and that really bothered me. But it definitely showed me that I was totally interested. I think the biggest rule of them all is to always go with your gut. If you feel like something is dangerous, if you feel like a guy is a little bit off, no one will blame you if you cut it off. Unfortunately, with online dating, it is totally acceptable to ghost someone, to just completely fall off the radar, to completely just stop talking to them. And if you feel like you need to do that in order to stay safe, in order to go with your gut, and deep down that this isn't a good guy or a good feeling or the date didn't go well, it is totally okay to ghost someone. I don't think that you owe anyone an explanation as to why you didn't go on a second date. I think that if you know the situation and you know what you do and you don't like, and if you're not down, then you're not down. No one, should blame you for that. So that concludes this episode of Flourishing with a Facial Difference. I hope that you all enjoyed it. It was definitely something that I needed to say in order to continue on with my Dating with a Difference series, because in this series I want to cover all of the crazy, funny online dates that I went on, and definitely Joe's episode. I want to make an episode all about how I met my boyfriend on Tinder and just my thoughts and, his thoughts and how well it's going and just everything about that. I definitely have some funny stories. I've got some crazy stories. I've got quite a bit of dating stories, and I'm really excited to continue with this Dating with a Difference series. So I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your week. I hope that you enjoy the weather. I hope that you put on a big comfy sweater and drink your hot coffee and just crunch the leaves. I love this season. I love Christmas, but I love fall most of all. I'm so excited to smell the crisp air, and I'm gonna stop talking now because if you talk to me about fall, I will go on and on and on. So, thank you so much for listening. I will see you guys next week on Flourishing with a Facial Difference.